We build confidence, we teach skills, and we unlock potential for better careers and better lives. This is the promise we keep to our students, our graduates, our employees, and our families. So together, we can build stronger communities. We are 15,000 strong, supporting more than 80,000 students across North America. We are Everest, Heald, and Wyotech. We are Corinthian Colleges.
For years, Corinthian Colleges Inc. has been accused of luring students in with false promises and profiting off predatory student loans, and now the federal government has dealt the for-profit college operator a major blow. The U.S. Department of Education is fining Corinthian almost $30 million, cutting some of its access to federal student aid and barring its Heald college chain from enrolling any new students, alleging that Heald inflated job placement rates as part of its pitch to prospective students. The department found almost 1,000 examples of misrepresenting placement rates at Heald college campuses. In one case, a campus allegedly classified a 2011 graduate of an accounting program as employed in the field based upon a food service job she started at Taco Bell in June 2006. In a statement, a spokesman for Corinthian called the government's conclusions, quote, highly questionable and unsubstantiated. But this is just the latest in a series of troubles for Corinthian colleges, which brought in more than $1.6 billion of revenue back in 2013, as much as 85% of it from federal student aid. Last June, the Department of Education restricted Corinthian's access to federal aid, forcing the company into an agreement to sell 85 of its campuses and eventually close 12 others. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau later sued over Corinthian's lending practices, and just 2 months ago, they reached a settlement to forgive $480 million in private student loan debt. Many Corinthian students still hold outstanding federal debt, however. Now a group known as the Corinthian 100 has gone on strike, refusing to pay back loans they say the federal government should forgive. When I asked Education Secretary Arne Duncan last week whether he'd agree to forgive the Corinthian students' debt, this was his response.
We continue to be very concerned with these issues. We've met with some of these young people as recently as the past 2 weeks, and we're going to continue to look at this very closely to see what the right thing is to do, not just in this situation, but more broadly.
I mean, that's a non-answer, but your answer is you are looking into whether you should.
We're looking at this very, very closely, and again, talking to young people who have been negatively impacted. And for me, it's not just about those individuals. It's about where you have bad actors. For far too long, they were allowed to just do what they wanted. We've tried to be very, very clear that we will not tolerate that. And whatever political pushback we get, we're fine with that.
Joining me now, Alexis Goldstein, former Vice President Merrill Lynch, now an activist with the Dept Collective. That's the group that's helping to organize the Corinthian 100. Alexis, great to see you. So I guess respond to Arne Duncan, who seemed to leave the door open, and then the statement today from the Education Department in this fine, they kind of gestured towards maybe there was going to be something for all these Corinthian students who are holding debt.
I mean, I think it's really a Band-Aid on a gaping, hemorrhaging wound at this point. The alarms have been sounding for a decade about Corinthians' malfeasance, their predatory behavior, their fraud, and the Department of Education is finally acknowledging that it existed. But let's not forget that last year they facilitated a sale to a debt collector. And Secretary Duncan mentioned on your show, he invoked the name of the students, he called them young people. It's important to remember many of these are adults, they are mothers, they are grandfathers, they are grandmothers, they are veterans, they are not just young people, and they are folks who are trying to get a better life and were scammed by a college that was enabled by the Department of Education for years. And we have seen they're facing 200 lawsuits. And now the Department of Education is finally admitting that something was wrong here, but we really need them to take the next step and to actually forgive the debt of these students who have essentially been thrown off a cliff. So
let's just be clear here. First of all, we should all say 9 state attorneys general say the federal government should forgive the debt. But just to be clear, the entire business model of Corinthian couldn't have existed without the federal government. I mean, 85% of the revenue that's coming in is coming from federal student aid. I mean, the student is basically just the kind of vehicle by which they can access the federal student aid dollars.
And they can get up to 90% of their money from federal student loans, and they can get even more than that if they target veterans, which we know them to have done. For example, in the California Attorney General's lawsuit, they were found to have unlawfully used military logos in some of their advertising in order to try to bring in more veterans, because then they could get GI Bill money. And this is one of the... Sorry, go ahead.
Well, but I guess here's the question, right? I mean, I don't have a representative from Corinthian here, so let me just sort of speak up on their behalf, right? I mean, there's a certain buyer beware aspect here, and there's also a degree to which, you know, the tangible benefits of an education are unquantifiable. If you take out a loan and you go and work and you go and educate yourself somewhere, they cannot control that institution, whether you get a job or not, right?
But this is an institution that has broken the law. They face 200 lawsuits, and these are students that have more debt than Ivy League educated students have. And in fact, Corinthian College spent more money lobbying than Harvard spent lobbying. And they don't give these students who are pursuing vocational degrees, which is something that President Obama has gone out and said that people should pursue vocational technical training. They don't get the skills that they need to become paralegals, to become medical assistants. They're trained in 15 years old technology and can't even get, jobs at Best Buy when they get computer systems degrees from Corinthian. So there has just been vast fraud for far too long under the Department of Education's watch. And if they want to right the wrongs, the only thing that they should be doing right now is forgiving this debt and heeding the calls of those 9 state attorneys generals and lawmakers as well. 13 senators have called for the same thing.
Does the Department of Education have the power to just wave away that debt?
They absolutely do under the Higher Education Act.
All right, Alexis Goldstein, always a pleasure to see you. Thank you very much. All right, that is all in for this evening. The Rachel Maddow Show starts right now. Good evening.